Question number 2, I'd ask, what is your distribution advantage? Because an incredible product will never be used if there isn't an effective distribution advantage to it. You can have a great product, but if no one knows about it, it'll never sell. So if anything, distribution is more important than the product. What I'd be looking for here is I'd want to see if the founders have a unique marketing strategy or unique sales strategy that ideally involves as little paid marketing as possible, because that's a slippery slope to go down to keep propping up revenue by paying for it rather than organically, through the product or through the community. I thought about this because I read a Mitch Lasky quote where he says, quote, "I resist as long as possible going paid, although sometimes you're so profitable that you can and not really mess up your margins up too much. I think once you start down the paid path for customer acquisition, it's a slippery slope. It's a very difficult thing to come back from because you're almost an addict to it. You're so reliant on it that you start to twist your mental model to believe that you're in this lifetime value return on investment thing that is unhealthy." And so I love this last sentence here because so many people, so many SaaS companies that pay on a per month basis will come up with this lifetime value metric. And so lifetime value is essentially the total amount that customer is going to pay you. So if you charge $1,000 a year for your product and you think you can have that customer for 5 years, so they'll pay you a lifetime value of $5,000. So you should be willing to pay, by that logic, you should be willing to pay anything less than $5,000 for that customer. So you make a profit on it. So some companies will spend $4,000 on customer acquisition to land that $1,000 a year customer. But that's obviously very dangerous because you don't know where technology is going to be in 5 years. They can use your product for a year. All of a sudden, this new, much better technology comes along, and they decide to use that for the next 4 years. So now you've just wasted $3,000 on that customer. So going paid and dignifying it with a lifetime value metric that's arbitrary, that no one knows and you can't calculate really, is just a dangerous game to play. So ideally, I'd want the founder to not necessarily have a paid marketing plan. I'd want to hear some kind of unique strategy around marketing. And I'd want the founder to hate paid marketing and not wanting to do it and trying to be as creative as possible to resist paid marketing. Because again, it can just prop up numbers and it doesn't tell you a lot about the product. I'd rather the founder not have a great start in selling the product and knowing that, okay, maybe we have to change something about the product. Maybe we have to change our marketing strategy. Maybe we have to talk to our customers a little more and fine tune things a little bit, rather than just, we're going to spend a lot to sell this product and, oh, it must be working because we're making all this revenue. I'd rather see a trickier head start than a artificial propped up head start. So that's what I'd be looking for first. The second thing, this kind of goes in line with what I'm saying. And so I'd want them to also either I'd help them get to this realization, or I'd want them to know that they can't do paid, because even if they go down the paid path, the incumbents will have 100 times or 1,000 times their marketing budget. So they can't outspend them. Their ads are always going to get shown after. So there has to be some type of distribution strategy, like, for example, a community-led marketing strategy. And so I thought of this from another Mitch Lasky quote. He says, quote, "King spends," King, the video game company behind Candy Crush, he says, quote, "King spends nearly $1 billion a year on customer acquisition, and thousands of games are released a month. So how are you, as a games company, going to be able to compete with that if you don't use some community-based marketing?" So I love that because it's just such a simple explanation. Like, you can't do paid because these companies have $1 billion a year customer acquisition budget. Their ads are going to get shown first. They're going to have better ads. They're going to get shown in front of more people. You can't compete with that. So you have to have some type of community-based marketing. You have to, I know for Lattice, he human resources software company. They wrote books about human resources that people working in human resources can read, and tips and everything like that. They had Slack channels for people to discuss, strategies and tips, things that work, things they're struggling with. So they built a community around this book, around these Slack channels. And so there's just got to be some type of community that you're building around that. Like your product has to be more than just something people pay for. Like they have to feel something with it. So I think the lattice is a good example, what I just gave. Like thinking about something creative around that. Like Nextdoor, a company I've talked about not in the benchmark episode, but at my website. And Nextdoor has this community-based marketing because you can't use the product unless 10 people in your neighborhood use it. Essentially, it's a social network for a neighborhood. People can talk about, whatever things they're complaining about in the neighborhood next over. They can say, I need a leaf blower. Does anyone have a leaf blower I could borrow? Just like anything neighborly you can do on that site. But you can only use it if you have 10 people within your neighborhood on the platform. So that's like a community-based marketing, because if they get one person, they're not paying for the other 9. That one person on Nextdoor who signed up is trying to get the other 9 for free for Nextdoor. So that's like that community-based marketing. That's the creative things you can do around getting people on your product rather than having to pay for it, because again, slippery slope, lifetime value isn't a real metric. You got to be creative around that. So to wrap up again, question number 2 would be, what's your distribution advantage? And what's your strategy around distribution?